Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to today's conversation on Created for More, the podcast. It is I, your host, Tombra, and today I have a guest that I am so keen to have a conversation with. Her name is Stephanie Kadiri. She's popularly known as StephREDD, and she's a trained linguist. She's a certified life coach, human resources professional, emotional intelligence and cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner with a passion for helping people activate their genius to transform self and impact society. It also says here on her bio that she's a skillful identity and communications coach with an audacious knack for making people laugh even at their own insecurities, while offering them an opportunity to rise above them. She has organized and facilitated several coaching and training corporate and social events locally, internationally, in both English and French. Oh wow, that's a mouthful. That is a mouthful. Hello, hello, hello. It is wonderful to have you here on the
Thank you so much.
podcast with me
Thank you, Tombra.
today. Thank you so much for being here, and I cannot
Thank you.
wait. Look, there's so many things. When I saw your profile, I saw your Instagram, and I was just like, who is this woman? It's like there's so many takes, so many things that I love that I'm personally passionate about. That I feel there's just this intersection between our worlds, and I thought it will be wrong not to have a conversation with you. So thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you
always like
for
to
having
start
me.
with no worries. I always like to start with all of my guests by asking them to introduce themselves in their own words. Like you heard me there, almost making mistakes of reading the script. But the truth is that no one can do it justice like you telling us who you are from
Mm.
your own mouth. So yeah, over to you.
So you say from the horse's mouth. This is what you say from the
Yes.
horse's mouth, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I try not to use horses. Thank you. From your own mouth sounds more
Yeah, just an idiomatic
politically
expression,
correct.
or do you call it? What do they call it? Is it an idiomatic expression or just
Yeah.
an expression somewhere? So I am Stephanie Kadiri. I like to be called StephREDD, and I'm intentional about being called StephREDD because it helps me to remember where I am coming from and how the name came
Mm,
about. And I am a genius activator. I call myself a genius activator because in a world where people seem to have lost the have seemed to have forgotten that they're geniuses. You need someone to progressively remind them that there's a genius in every human being, in the words of Albert Einstein, that there's a genius in every human being, and we have to progressively show up with that genius regardless of the vicissitudes of life, regardless of the difficulties that life takes us through. So I am that one that doesn't just speak about it, but I sing about it, and I try to want to transform behaviors by transforming minds and helping people realize that the world will be a better place when we all show up with our genius and the fullness of the uniqueness that we are, and just have fun while doing it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So where did the name Steph Red come from? You say
Okay,
you don't you don't
I
you
had a sneaky little feeling you were gonna
I
ask.
had to go there. Like literally, you just put that you set that up so nicely.
Yeah. So I sing, right? For a long time, and which is why I'm very particular about people uncovering their geniuses. Steph Red used to be an alter ego.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so I've said a few of my platforms through my podcast. Steph Red used to be an alter ego in 2015 when I released my first single. I was a human resource practitioner at the time, and I didn't want them to realize that I could sing because I felt that it was going to make them consider me to be unserious, because the
Oh.
human resource profession is a serious profession.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there are several subconscious beliefs behind that. That's going to take some time, of which growing up, those beliefs were formed. So I released the single and I was like, okay, I need to put a name to it. I mean, I've held this song for so long, let me put it out there. But if I put Stephanie Kadiri to it, those people that know me as a serious HR person would consider me to be unserious. So I need to look for a name. Jay-Z, that's not his real name. Ja Rule, that's not his real name. Missy Elliott, that's really not her real name. So I can look for a name. Steph. So I look for something to add to that. Steph. Let's add something to. What's my favorite color? Red. Aha! Bingo. Put red on it. And put an extra D to emphasize the love for the red. So when the music is out there and people hear, they just know it's StephREDD, but they won't connect it to Stephanie Kadiri. But the process of reintegrating and coming to the fullness of the realization of who I was and what I carried, and understanding that everything, every gifting and every talent that I had was meant for a purpose that I was supposed to show up with and not hide. I got to the point where I had to integrate my personalities and reintroduce myself. You know that thing of allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm Stephanie Kadiri, but please call me StephREDD. I sing, I dance, I love to make people laugh. I'm a trained linguist, I'm a behavioral therapist, I'm a life coach. I used to be practicing HR. I am all of that, and it is the ability for me to show up with the fullness of who I am, and then help people also uncover themselves, show up with the fullness of who they are, and hey, the sky is big enough for everyone not to hit each other. So that's the short but not so long but short story.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I think what you said at the start, so as you were speaking there, when you talked about, you know what, I have this passion for music. I want to, it's been on my heart. I want to put my songs out there, but I don't want people to think I'm not serious. I don't want people to, draw wrong conclusions from it. And it's often the place where a lot of people are, right? They're hiding themselves because they're afraid. It's just different
They're afraid
feelings.
of being accepted. They're afraid of being. So in recent times, I've been saying a lot that one of the greatest needs of human beings is the need to be seen, heard, appreciated, celebrated, right? And it has now gotten to a point where whatever would help us feel seen, whatever would help us feel appreciated, whatever would help us feel recognized, we would lean toward, even if it means losing our identities. And I've been saying a lot recently that one of the greatest plagues that have hit the world yet is not COVID. It's not any plague hitting Africa. It's not malaria. It's not polio. It's not tuberculosis. It's not anything. I believe it is identity crisis. And we go through, Eric Erickson, we go through different stages, developmental stages, of which identity is progressively formed, starting from the primary environment, which is the parental environment where children are raised. That is the first place where they begin to gain their identity. And if that is not properly established, we begin to progress through life with whatever identity is cast on us from society, from schools, from friends, and that's where peer pressure begins to rise. And because there's nothing to juxtapose for it to fall back on, to now compare and choose, we lean towards any kind of pressure. And the sooner we're able to come to that place to realize that we can be seen from our places of genius without having to step into someone else's shadow and be a copy of that person.
Yes.
The sooner would get out of that place of analysis paralysis, like you mentioned earlier, and begin to build ourselves from the place of our genius. One of the things that I believe hold us back is the fear of failure, or the fear of not being accepted. There's something I say a lot in communication class, that they say the fear of public speaking is the next greatest fear after the fear of death. It has been said that people say they'd rather die than speak in public, for those that have glossophobia. But when I break it down, when I'm talking to my students, and I just created something to break it down, that what you really fear, and it's because I've asked them several times. I've spoken with people who are anxious about taking on a stage, or anxious about trying something, or anxious about putting themselves out there. It's for the fear of, will I be accepted? Will they think I'm smart? What if they boo me? What if they laugh at me? And one of the questions I ask first is, do you think you are smart?
Oof,
Because perception never starts from what people think about you, it
it
culminates from
starts
what
from
you think
what you
about
think about
yourself.
yourself.
So, what we perceive about ourselves, we begin to project on others to say, oh, they think I'm not good enough. No, do you think you're good enough? So, what we need to fix is fix ourselves. And the reason we are that way is because through the process of our becoming from childbirth to when we were eventually released into the world, there was no affirmative voice to help us recognize who we were and grow in that path, in that path. So everything that looked like it, we tend towards. So we're not quite sure. Oh, if this was raining today, we go here. Oh, this was
Mm,
it today, we go here. So through life, we get into adulthood, having spread ourselves so thin across several assumptions or several beliefs or several expectations, and we get to a point in our lives where we're now asking ourselves, who am I? That's where mid-age crisis
midday
comes in, and
crisis
we're
comes
wondering,
in.
how did I come here? How did I start believing? What have I done to myself? What have I spent the last 40, 50 years doing?
Mm,
And then we begin to question it, because we feel probably there's the feeling of I may have lost time, or time is no longer on my side, or oh, I made such a mess of my life, there's no point anymore.
mm,
But the ability to progressively accord ourselves grace and stay on that path of progressive self-discovery, and I call it a self-re-engineering journey, where you move from self-discovery, 7 phase, to self-mastery progressively. So I
mhm,
master phase 1, but there's still a phase 2. By the time I get to phase 2, I start from discovery again. I master phase 2. I get to phase 3. By the time I get to phase 3, it's a new level of discovery or a new dimension of discovery. I start again. So giving myself grace, understanding that I am on a learning curve and I allow myself
mhm.
to fail sometimes. Failure is not a
It's
definition, it's an evaluation if you just
mhm.
allow it to be.
So good.
So that thing of not according ourselves the grace is where now puts us in the place where we are stifled in the instant, or we are not able to move from a particular place because we feel we will not be accepted. We're not able to take on the stage because we feel nothing will come out of our heads, or they will laugh at me. But ask yourself, what if they clap for you?
Mhm.
What if they don't laugh at you? And even if they laugh at you, what are the things that you can learn? Evaluation, not definition.
Evaluation, not
So
definition.
that
So
you
powerful.
go back, what do I need to improve? So that when I show up next time, I would show up stronger. What does stronger even look like?
Mhm,
Because then we are showing up without a definition of how we want to be seen.
mhm,
So I want to show up strong. What does strong look like? Because you need to know what strong looks like, so that you know what to prepare for, so that you know
mhm,
what to improve. So because I know what strong looks like me looking like this, or me getting this done, or me getting this kind of applause, or me getting this kind of feedback. Based on that, what are the things that are required to get such? I
mhm,
identify that. I go back to my dressing table. I go back to my workshop and begin to work.
mhm.
At the end of it, we must put in the work. The process of putting in the work is trusting that you can show up stronger again. But I guess that's where we tend to miss it over time. Probably because the voices in our heads, based on what we have gone through, are much stronger than anything else. So we have to now first get into our heads, shut those voices up, and begin to look for something that will motivate us. Even if there's no past to motivate us, design a future that we can work towards. Yeah, yeah.
So
I hope
good.
I've answered your question.
You have more than answered it. Steph, you touched on so many important points. And I'm spoiled for choice in terms of where to go. But where I'd like to start is when you talk about the parenting phase. The
Yeah.
being the kind of core developmental or foundational pillar, as it were.
Mm.
So for people who don't have, or who didn't have, you know, that definition properly identified and properly scripted for them, I mean, how do they then start? Like, is hope lost?
Hmm. Truly, I never cease to be thankful for the ability to have had parents. Now, even though having gone into the behavioral therapy space and understanding the traumas that I had embodied from my peculiar experiences, I am still grateful for the fact that I had a parent figure
Mm-hmm.
to give me some values that I can still run with today, that are basically many of the foundational pillars that I am building on today.
Mm-hmm.
However, I am not oblivious of the fact that there are people that do not have that. Either whatever the situation is, I don't think anybody prayed not to have a parent, because I was thinking whether to say intentionally or unintentionally. Well, you can't unintentionally not want to have a parent. So there are people that have parents, but the parents are not present. There are those that did not have parents, but they didn't get to know their biological parents.
Mm-hmm.
At best, one of the things we can do, which is why I believe we'll put a voice out there to recognize that hope is not lost because you don't have a foundation. I believe one of the most significant things is to recognize the roles we play amongst the three levels of parenting. So I have broken it into three. I said their biological parents are those that the ones that give us birth.
Yeah.
They are institutional parents, which are teachers across all levels who take over from biological parents, of which biological parents have the primary responsibility to put pillars into the ground such that when institutional parents come, it is bouncing
It's
on
bouncing
that
off of it. Yeah.
foundation, and
Yeah.
then there is something to juxtapose with. However, if it is not there, institutional parents need to realize that it is possible that they are the only parent or the first parent that a child of whatever level would meet. And they have a responsibility to parent, a responsibility to teach values, a responsibility to guide right, particularly between ages 0 to 18, where the emotional brain is heightening formation. The responsibility to, so I just rounded up one of my May edition of the Compelling Communicator course, and I had two educators in the class, and one of the things I mentioned, because the realization that, oh wow, I've been an educator, but these are the things I've not realized, right? And this is something that I need to take back to the children. My charge to them, I beg your pardon, was take this back to your classrooms and become the parent to your children. A parent, I mean, the parent that wears that hat, yet you are a teacher, but a teacher that is instilling values. You are not just teaching a subject, you are shaping a mind. And you're shaping not just by what you say, but what they see you do. Because children hear what you say, but they become what they see you do. So just telling them that particularly, to also realize that that is the responsibility they have. However, when a child has missed the biological parents and they have missed the institutional
Institutional
parents, the
parents.
next phase is the societal parents, where you have bosses and leaders and any other person that holds a position in society. You have a responsibility to cap whatever is left of the values, and where it has been missed, to lovingly and gracefully and progressively reshape. So I see myself presently as, yes, I'm a biological parent, I have my children. By the nature of work I do as a trainer, coach, I am an institutional
Institutional
parent.
parents as well.
As a function of the position I hold in society that I plan to hold, I will be a societal parent. So it's now to ask ourselves, what kind of parent am I, and where do I fit in, and how am I ensuring that I am raising a mind properly? Of which it is not about, oh, they are adults, they're no longer children, they are 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 60-year-olds that are still trapped in teenage years, that are still trapped in primary school. And there are many that need to be freed from that trauma that held them stuck there, that shaped their beliefs and shaped their mindset. So coming to the table now to realize that I have work to do. When you take on the position of leadership in a place of work or leadership in a society, it's not for self-aggrandizement, but I like to say it's for transgenerational benefit. It's to shape a mind, it's to shape a behavior, it's to ensure a lasting value that preserves society. Yeah, so that is my perspective too.
So powerful. I like how you've broken down the different layers or different levels. It helps put into perspective the fact that we have a collective responsibility as people. Whatever, it's not age dependent. It's whatever level you're in,
Yeah.
you are a parent of some sort.
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
You're a parent of some sort. So powerful. I feel like listening to you, you are so well put together. And I almost feel like I want to peel behind the facade. Like I always kind of feel like I want to take off
It just
something because
depends on the question you're asking me. The question you're asking to me, what comes out or what comes out.
I always feel like, because what was it like for you? I'd love to hear a little bit about your story in this whole conversation around, self-discovery and exploration. And I think we got a snippet of it when you talked about, when I first started, I wasn't quite sure. I didn't want to be this person. What is it like, and how has it been, that journey of evolving into this person that you are, considering the fact that you are many things, which is a lot in itself.
A lot in
Because
itself, right? Oh my word.
it's a lot in itself. The fact that you identify on so many levels and so many layers and so many fields. I am the linguist. I am I am this passionate communicator. I'm a coach. I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm a genius activator. What is it like? What was it like for you getting to this point of being comfortable to not just say I am just a HR practitioner,
But
but
why
I am.
should I limit myself like that?
There
Because
you go. We start to
I
see her
think,
now.
oh yeah, I said it just depends on where you just need to press the right button and the personality that suits that response will come out. Right. And I think it was the realize. So I have always been the happy, bubbly. I call myself an extreme extrovert,
Mm.
but I have learned by knowledge acquisition. So I, like the way I explain this in my classes, by nature I am an extrovert. By nurture, or I beg you, yes, by nature I'm an extrovert. By nurture, intentional nurture, I am an ambivert. So I have learned to, of course, because of the nature of my job, and I have to, for me to be able to do what I do as a coach, as a behavioral therapist, I have to have I have to activate my thinking brain and my ability to just see beyond the surface. And in the middle of all my excitement, I'm not able to quieten my thoughts. So I needed to learn how to quieten my thoughts and get beneath. So when I'm done there, I take off that hat and I am the sparky sunshine StephREDD.
Mm.
And I get into a room and I want to bring an energy of my presence into that room, because it's possible that there's somebody that is smiling, but the smile is a mask. So I want to get in there and leave there having left some energy that the person can tap from and leaving some cheer. However, because of the subconscious programming growing up, I wanted, when I filled my university, my jam form, I filled theater arts, first choice, theater arts, second choice. My mother helped me to change it and put it as law first choice and law
Oh
second choice.
gosh. Oh gosh.
Now, I know
Wait,
that
we just
many
got
of
to
us
say all
want,
these are parents, honestly.
yeah. So I want to come there because we tend to judge our parents, but and is what I talk about in communication as intent, delivery, and feedback, which are the three processes of communication. It always starts with an intent. However, the delivery, the methodology of expressing an intent may be faulty. So the feedback that we give is also faulty. The thing now is, if you check the intent of our parents, they were all right. Because in their day, you had to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, an architect
That is it.
to be significant in society. And every parent wants their child to be significant. Such things like theater arts were not recognized in our society. Singing, hello, are you an NFA? You want to play football? In which person's house?
And you know what? It's changed. That paradigm has changed now because
it's beginning to change, because so the thing now is there is more awareness. For some parents, they still don't see it, but some are beginning to see it. However, the way and manner that we have come to let them to see it has broken many bridges and had burned many bridges, because there's been a lot of severed relationships of, this is who I wanted to be, but you didn't let me. But the truth was, it wasn't because I hated you. It was because my intentions for you were to be seen properly. However, the way I went about it, based on how I was conditioned to, because they too were conditioned to show up that way. So it's actually been a ripple effect. So it helps us to extend more grace to them, appreciation for their effort, forgiveness for however they did it, because that was how they knew best. Then we deciding to do differently and do better based on our level of awareness. Because what makes us feel that tomorrow our children will not arise and say, why didn't you stop me when I was going to be a musician?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, so we never think, we are presently all boisterous. I mean, we're all about the fact that, I wanted to be, my mother didn't let me.
Yeah,
our old age too is coming. We are woke. Our old age too is coming. And the generation then, will they ask us, this was what I said I wanted to, yes, but you were my parent, why didn't you stop me? You were my parent, why didn't you? What makes us feel that wouldn't happen? So it just helps us to, let's be more gracious to them. Yeah. And it took me that process of coming to forgive my mother, because I had a single mother. I lost my father quite early. But that boisterous person was always there. But because she said, you want to study French, I eventually settled to study French. And I said I wasn't going to do the law. They're like, Mommy, you're not so old. This French, this law, if you really want a lawyer in the family, you can do it. You're supposed to be in the class. Yeah? But in staying in French, of course she was concerned that, there's no, you're just going to be a teacher who's going to respect you. There's no path yet. She was a teacher. She was like, there's no benefit for teachers. You won't be a teacher. You're studying French. You're just going to teach. And I said, no, I'm going to be an ambassador. I said, there are options. I can be an ambassador. But she didn't see that. But because of constantly hearing, you need to do a serious job. You need to do a serious job. French is not a serious job. By the time I was done, I needed to do a serious job. A serious job within my area of learning was human resources. Now, getting into the human resources straitjacket, as a human resource professional, you're supposed to be all shoulders square and heads up and talk only when you need to hire or fire, and don't see you smile, otherwise they take it for granted kind of thing. So I step into that plus all the background thing, and I have to be serious and all of it. So you can see the body love trying to come out of the Professor Clump, but Professor Clump is saying stay back there. And it is, I was hiding myself for so long, which is talking about StephREDD and all of it. But just realizing that for me, I lean strongly to my spirituality, and I am a believer in Jesus. And there's a path that's said in the Bible, which is what what my Christian faith, my spirituality inclines towards, that the master was traveling and he gave unto his servants talents.
Come on.
Each according to their capacity. So if one person got 1, another person got 50, another person got 100, each according to their capacity. That means the person that got 50 should not be feeling out of place expressing themselves over 50, because the person that got 1 is just doing their 1. So for the best part of my life, I saw myself with people who say, just do one thing. After all, a jack of all trades is a master of none. But the full quote is, a jack of all trades is a master of one or none, but is still far better than a master of one. So when I saw that quote, I'm like, really? Why did they tell us the full thing when we're growing up? Because there I am, seeing someone who has one talent and has grown their one talent fully, expressing themselves from that one talent, now telling me, who has 50 talents, to stop being a jack of all trades, just do one. So what I interpreted to myself was, what I am saying is, the master who trusted me with 50 talents didn't do well.
Didn't do well. Didn't have a plan. Didn't think about it.
That was the turning point for me, to say, you know what, I am this, I am this, I am this, and I can express all effectively. And I can thrive across board effectively. So however long it's going to take, or it could take for me to progressively become, up until I am recognized as who I am, I will stick with it, I will build it, I will evolve with it up until I become it. So it's the choice to show up even when it wasn't popular, even when it was being spoken against, but choosing that on this path, for every time I engage myself, I am dying for something. So I better be dying for something that I'm willing to die for. So I'm willing to die for something that I believe in than to live for something that I don't believe in. I believe that this is what I carry, and this is how I should show up. And up until I will show up with it, up until everybody begins to believe it. Oh, so now it's easy for you to call me the Genius Activator. But the first time I put it, I was uncomfortable. And some people were like, what does it even mean, Steph? I said, we will stay here.
I share that with you, and I've said that to someone before.
So
I said, look, when they start saying, what does it mean? So you call yourself activator. Which one is activator? Yeah, you just say that, we're all going to find out together. We will all find out together. But
well, like identity and communication coach, that's not, it's either you're a business coach or you're a relationship coach. And like, and how I defended that, eventually I was like, I'm going to stay on this identity, and I tweaked it to call it self-re-engineering, because identity is just a part of it. It's just but self-re-engineering is progressively re-engineering yourself, of which that encompasses everything about identity. So I said, I'm going to stay here, even if I'm the first person that will be called the self-re-engineering communication coach. Let me sit here. One day there will be people that will be wanting to do this. So if it's my responsibility now to create the tools and create everything that is required, so that people one day will say boldly, I am a self-re-engineering coach. Because I've come to realize that in all the things of relationship, marriage, everything in our wheel of life are all externals. The internal is identity. It is how we see ourselves that we project to business. Sometimes business is an escape that we run to, so that we don't sit with our thoughts and deal with our inner insecurities and deal with our anxieties. So we project to business. So business is thriving, but we are hurting it in. Business is thriving, but relationship is a mess. This is thriving, but so how do we come back to our center when you got your identity right and you recognize that you're on a path of progressively becoming? So you have to progressively self-re-engineer. You can easily project, regardless of what phase or level or dimension of life it is that you are, project from a center, a core that you have defined, to business, project to a relationship, project to your career, project to every aspect of your life. And then you come back to your center, refuel, then you spread. Yes, so that thing, it is that fear. What gets people stuck is, what if people don't accept me? Stay there. If you believe it long enough, develop yourself long enough, it's just a matter of time. They will accept you.
They will accept you. Do you, and everybody will adjust.
Yeah.
They will accept you.
That's it. Do you, and everybody will adjust.
Every single person will adjust. It was interesting what you were saying. You were speaking about earlier. I was reflecting on it, and I was saying the only reason earlier today, and I was saying that the only reason that you believe what these naysayers are saying is because you agree with them.
Absolutely.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, and that means you see yourself that way already.
You already see yourself.
Yes. So
your spirit bears witness with what they're saying.
Bears witness. That's it.
It bears
so
witness.
Up until you no longer bear witness with them, for you not to bear witness with them, you have to have sat with yourself and defined yourself. Who am I? What values do I stand for? What is my talent? What are the talents I have? Is it 1? Is it 20? What are they? What can I do? How do I turn this talent to a skill? What are my passions? How do I turn this passion to a skill? How do I learn how to catch my thoughts? Because I don't have control over what my eyes sees or my eyes see. I don't have control over the thoughts that cross my mind, because I say that thoughts are like birds and our minds are like trees. Well, we can decide whether we want the bird to perch, build a nest, and have children, or we hit away the thoughts and refocus to a more compelling, a more endearing, a more progressive thought. So at the end of the day, we have to do the work. I'm in a therapy session with a gentleman who's just going through a very interesting phase of his life, and I had to emphasize today, when my talk is done, you have to do the work. So I gave an assignment when we had our last session, and he didn't do it, and showed up today not doing it. I'm like, no, you have to do it. That is part of the work that needs to be done. So we can't keep wallowing in what happened to us. We can't keep complaining, I'm having a headache, when our prevalent thought is a negative that had happened to us. A past that we can't redeem.
I love that.
So we are dwelling on it and missing out on a potential future that holds possibilities. So what am I
Mic
going
drop
to
or
do?
stapler drop.
What? Yeah, right. Stapler drop. Yeah, so what am I going to do? How am I going to dust myself up and stop this pity party? It's okay sometimes. There's sometimes I'm like, okay, yes, I just want to cry, okay, let me cry. Like people say, I will they cry, they see road. Cry, finish, clean your eyes, stand up.
Stand up until you stop giving up hope that the past can be different. You will stay stuck there.
That is it. The past is irredeemable. It is irrecoverable. But the future has great potentials. And I like the narrative of the 4 lepers that were in a fallow land and in famine land. I'm like, oh, we're going to die. Let's just die. We said, let's go to that camp. There are soldiers there. They could have mercy on us and give us some food. And one just said, no, they will kill us.
But you're going to die anyway.
We're going to die anyway. So here guarantees us death, nothing else. That place guarantees us death, 1, guarantees us food, guarantees us mercy. So for the possibility that we may be shown mercy, we move. So we're moving towards what gives you a possibility of a second option. So you are between the devil and the deep blue sea. And I was giving an analogy during our election season. And I said, Nigeria, for example, we're between the devil and the deep blue sea. The devil will already know death is guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
But the deep blue sea has options. The deep blue sea can drown you. It can throw you to an island where someone can see you. While you're still struggling, a boat can see you and save you. Or a whale can swallow you and take you somewhere. So the sea still has more options than the devil, who you already know guarantees you death. So for every time we go through phases in life, I think my encouragement is to, what are the options available between here and there? Now, the getting into the sea, staying with the devil, and this is just coming to staying with the devil, all you do, you don't need to do any work, just bow down and you are dead. Getting into the sea, you have to swim for your life. You have to put in the work.
And that's often the thing, right? People don't want to
put in the work. We don't want to put in the work.
That's often the thing.
So you have to swim. It's either you swim or sink. You tell yourself, I'm not sinking. Let me swim. And as you are swimming, you are praying, let a fish come and carry me somewhere, or let me find a boat. But if you are going to die at all, die in motion. If you are going to die at all, die moving. Die trying. Not stuck. And that is what has been my bingo moment. And it really triggered all of this entire self-discovery journey, and everything has happened to me over the last 6 years, starting January 13th, 2017, when I was fired from a job for reasons that I do not know why till tomorrow. And when that happened, it it brought me to my knees. It shook everything I'd ever stood for, believed in. And there I am asking myself, what next? And at some point within the week of when I was fired, I did think of ending it. I was like, you know what? Shebi, I should not try this suicide thing that they say. But then I look at my husband, I look at my children, I'm like, who is going to take care of this? Or where am I running to? And I said, that is not an option. I'm not about to cower into this. What are my options? What else can I do? How did I get here? How do I get out of here? And thirdly, how do I stay out of here? So beginning to think, what can my hands do? Okay, HR, I was fired from an HR job, a regional job. I was covering 2 countries. What are the things that I can do? What else can my hand do? I can speak French. I can teach. Okay, where do I start? Go down and start from ground zero if you must. But that was where I started with the mantra, I will never give up until I win. And even if I don't win, I'll finish strong. My people say we die fighting. We die here. Right? So whatever I need to do to keep showing up and trying, I feel I try again. And in the process, I was speaking with someone yesterday. The person said, StephREDD, I didn't know you had gone through that. I said, what's it? I thought you have just been thriving. I said, wow, I make suffering look good, eh?
And that's why when you started this podcast and you were speaking, I was like, it sounds very nothing has ever happened to you in your life.
I make it look good, right? So when I come with all the charge, you think it's because everything has been nice and rosy. No. It's not been. It's been intentionally showing up and intentionally engaging and getting the first 50,000 naira from someone who ordered books that I didn't have and using that to buy something else and using it to make first complimentary cards and buy more books and forgetting my certification and going to, what do they call it, when they're having shows, and I buy a stand and I'm selling books. And sometimes I see some of my colleagues, the entire process of when they ask, how is work? Of course, going through the definition, because I realized I couldn't define myself again. And that was where I began to build the tool. That was what helped me build the tool around self-discovery, around self-re-engineering. Because I realized that I had defined myself by a job. So once the job left, it was then I realized that everything that had given me a sense of status or worth was tied to a job, to a status as a married woman, or to the ability to travel, or that I'd gone for this conference, or that this person knows me. So the moment that was out, when they say, who are you? I couldn't define myself. Because all I would say was, I'm a global human resource professional. I'm a certified life coach. I work for so-and-so organization, human resource manager. But all that was not there. Title out. Job out. Who am I? So now that you asked me, who am I? Wasn't it sweet in your ear?
It was very sweet.
No, that was it.
Very, very sweet. I loved it.
But the process of becoming took me sitting down to write who I am. And it is not just who so who I am. I've changed my Instagram identity several times.
And it's okay. And it's okay. Please liberate some people with that statement.
I am progressively changing.
It is okay.
So I started off as being a career coach. But I know career coach because I'm in human resources, so cliche. They say, well, that's what's raining. So of course, when I got my certification, you have to incline towards what is raining. What do the people want? People want a career coach, relationship coach, financial coach. People are looking for money. That's what's raining. Business coach. So everybody wants to be a business coach. Nobody wants to try the waters. I will try it. I'm not a bandwagon person. I don't like bandwagoning. I like to chart a new course. It is painful. It is a process of building. And I guess we have a wide range of people who don't want to build from ground zero if they need to, but rather just flood the market because that is what is raining. Unfortunately, I don't know where to incline. I happen to be that kind of person that likes to challenge the status quo and ask why. So why does it have to be that? Why must it remain like that? What of this aspect? Well, people do not know what their problems are, so you will just they be looking for money. They don't want their problems. They go and look for where there's money. Well, everybody's purpose is different. But I know that the path I am in a process of time, it will make money, it will get global recognition, and it will build a platform for the next generation of people that want to be called by that name and identified as that. Yeah.
So good. Hallelujah, somebody. I love it. Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Now that you look back on that, pivotal moment where you were laid off, what is your how what is your definition of that moment?
What's my definition of the moment? So, and I like to call it, one of the things that held me trapped for a very long time was trying to get closure, to know what did I do wrong. I had done everything right. I ticked every box. I'd gotten the best feedback, as a matter of fact, a few days before from my regional supervisor, who had said, "You are one of the best we've had." And then 4 days later, the same person tells me, "You don't fit into our way." And I'm asking, what is your way? And you can't tell me. The same person says, "You are a fantastic HR. You do great work. It's just that you don't fit into our way." And I'm asking, what organization would have great HR? You say that, yet you want to let the person go. What is your way? And just seeking that closure tormented me for months. What did I do? What did I do? But then when I sat down in introspection to begin to ask, there was something that the general manager who I worked directly with in Nigeria had said. He said that it's just that I knew I couldn't work with you 2 months ago. So I reflected to 2 months ago. What happened 2 months ago? I've just been here for 4 months. 4 months. And then I realized that we had an altercation of some sort. Now, the altercation, I call it an altercation because it was for employee benefit. It had to do with an employee engagement issue. And I stood firmly. I was standing firmly from the angle of, as a responsible organization,
this is what
we need to do this. If we do this, we would be seen as unfair. And these are part of the things that are reducing our employee engagement chat. If we're complaining about employee engagement, then it's not by just doing surveys, and it's by fixing this. However, I realized that my tone, just by going through it, my tone may have been wrong. And that is one of the reasons why I'm big on communication, because many times our intent is right, but our delivery is wrong. So our feedback is not what we expect. And it took me talking to my son once. I was recording for my podcast, and then I told my son, "Don't talk, I'm trying to finish record something, talk later." And just towards the end, after I've tried to just manage it through, he comes and says, mommy, something, and then interrupts it. So I'm like, "But I told you not to talk now. I told I was recording something." Now that sounded pretty, up until I listened to it and realized that I sounded like Maleficent. When I heard my tone to him, the first thought that crossed my mind was, why won't they fire you? Because I said, now I was standing, it was a righteous indignation. My intent was right, but my method was wrong. It is possible that as a general manager, he felt challenged. I challenged him in such a way that was like, this person talking to me like this. Are you sure she's not going to start a luta continua here? So that is my own interpretation, because I really don't know what it was. But taking it back to the 2 months that he said, that was the best I could interpret. And the first thing I did at that moment with my son was I called him and I hugged him tight. I told him, "I'm sorry I sounded like that. I didn't mean it. I'm really sorry." Because I just felt this tone can break anybody's spirit. How much more someone that is supposed to be your boss? So sometimes our intent is collaboration, but our communication is competition. So we are unconsciously competing with people we're supposed to be collaborating with. So if he begins to see me as a competition, it's like this one, what she's doing. She wants the employee to be on her side. She wants to take my job. Oh, you want to make it seem like when HQ hears. I'm just trying to give up different scenarios. So when HQ hears, it's like, you are the champion and not the. And I begin to think, how else could I have collaborated with him to reassure him that I am on your side, and whatever I'm doing is not for self, it's for organization, of which all of us will benefit if we put out the right communique out there. But my manner of communicating it was threatening, I believe. So instead of being preserved as good an HR as I was kicked out. So that is also one of the things that fuels my drive for communication. What are you saying, really? How are you showing up? Of which is not just in words, it's in character, it's in behaviors, it's in attitudes. Are you even aware of the behaviors and attitudes that you bring into a room? Are you aware of the subconscious conditionings and programs that show up through your words and your demeanors that are now leaving off residues in other people to draw from and give back to you? How do you learn how to communicate to yourself first correctly, see yourself correctly, and then show up with how you want to be seen for others to draw from and give back to you? So that is what began to fuel my disposition for self-discovery. So losing the job, realizing what I could have done better, and now intentionally walking the path to fix myself and realize how in the same manner I may have been speaking to my husband, in the same manner I may have been speaking to my children. Oh, small wonder why that quarrel you people had so. And began to check myself and know how to drop my ego and know how to apologize and know how to reassure, to say, hey, I'm in this with you. I just want to show you options. And know how to hear my voice and hear my tone and pick. And if I think I have inflected wrongly, I come back, I'm able to make adjustments and say, okay, I didn't mean it that way, right? And this is what I meant. Do you understand? And just communicating, just showing up better and showing up stronger and showing up from a center that you have owned. Showing up with an authenticity of the fullness of the genius that you are, regardless of what your genius is, because we all have one. It's now how well we're able to identify it and show up with it.
You are a dream.
What?
You are an absolute dream, because you are an interviewer's dream. Like I when you're talking, my head is going like, I want to just catch that one and just speak to you about that. And I'm like, okay, but what that thing that she said was good. Let's just quickly grab that one.
Right.
I love it. I'm like a kid in a candy store. Is there another perspective on this about it just being time for you to fly the nest? It being time for you to, just break out, find who you really were, because it sounds like it was stifling you in a way, right? I don't know, is this something that I'm just making up?
Okay, so for me it was, now I am grateful for that fire.
That's where I was going.
10 years in 2010, I wrote a 10-year plan to say, by 40, I want to resign from 9 to 5 and begin to do that which I believe I've been called to do on this earth. I was fired 3 years too. Now, which is why I believe that values drive for me. Roy E. Disney, I think it's Roy E. Disney, has said, it's not hard to make a decision once you know what your values are.
At all.
So, for me, while I was trying to get on another job, I had several interviews, including those that gave me the opportunity to jackpot to Canada. And they asked, so where do you see yourself 5 years in the company? I said, I won't be there up to 5 years. I just have 3 more years to work. And they said, what do you mean? I said, I intend to resign by 40. Of course, they will not call me back. And you have people that are saying, Steph, what's wrong with you? At least just enter first. And you can decide to leave, but just get the job. You need this money. But then, I used to sit as human resources. And I know that the hurdle we have to cross to hire. The money an organization pays, the process, it is tiring. And then you hire someone, the person leaves, you have to do it again. I didn't like it as an HR professional. I wouldn't do it to another HR professional. So if I don't get the organization that is willing to accept that I want to work with them for 3 years, I'll go and do business. And that's what I did. Now, it was a painful decline because getting another job would have been better. I mean, there was one that, in short, it was going to take me to Canada, for goodness sakes. They wanted a French-speaking person. What you talk about?
Oh, wow. Match made in heaven.
And we're down to last two. They were like, we're down to last two people. And I mean, the person just said, oh, we're now going to have a conversation in French to be sure you can communicate when you get here. And we got on it, and it was good. And then it got to that part, and I said, sorry, I just want to work 3 years. Of course, it sounds stupid. I see your eye open. You're like,
suicide.
Anybody would be like, what is wrong with you? Get that job. I had family members that be like, you know what? Just get this suffering you're suffering is too much.
I love it though.
Get that 9 to 5. Just do it. You're still good. You can still work with. I'm like, no, my values. So some people like your values should be changeable. Like your values is the one that they can change. You have to find out when your values no longer serve you. I say, well, this value is serving me. It is serving the purpose that I believe I stand for. So that was a tough decoy I needed to take, of which I was like, instead of going for that job that would pay me some, I mean, as at the time I left while I was fired from there, I was earning a little over, I was earning 950,000 a month. So, of course, I'm negotiating at this point 2M a month because
that was then.
Yeah, this was, I'm talking 2017, girl. And instead of me taking it, so just take it, do, even if you're going to live 3 years, you'd have bettered your life. And I went to start selling books and hustling and doing videos. Now, and one of the things I kept telling myself, because all through it, I kept writing quotes, I kept writing things, and I called them my stepping blocks to dig me out of the pit. And that's actually what it was, to just begin to respect the process of time and trust that in due season, my time will come. If I do not faint, if I do not give up, if I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I'm trying to open something that I wrote, and just one of many things. And this Instagram reminded me of this May 2nd, 2022. And it was one of those days where I was just like, I've been improving myself. I've taken courses, I've developed tools, I've improved myself. I just need a break. I just need that platform. I just need that breakthrough because one of the most frustrating things is when you are prepared and you are prepared and there's no stage to express your preparedness. And it can be overwhelming. Or even when you're just preparing and you're like, when will I stop preparing? When will I stop tilling? Why am I not yet seeing the harvest? And what I wrote was, time is the difference between your present and future. Yet time is relative to product. There is tomato time, corn time, iroko time, and bamboo time. Know your product and trust the process of your time. The wait may get disheartening, but give it diligent work. And time. So I'm putting in work. I'm like, okay, I may not be a tomato seed. I may be an iroko seed. So while I'm complaining that the person that has a tomato seed has seen theirs, I can't compare myself to them, because that means I'm not aware of my product.
You're not aware. It's like the elephant. I think they said 9 years or something like that. The elephant.
I can't remember years. It takes a long time before they deliver. 2 years or so. 2
years, okay.
Or something like that. But when I recognize what I'm carrying, I'm able to be patient with time. And an encouragement for those people that feel, oh, but I want to be an iroko. Why am I tomato? The iroko and the bamboo are going to be thankful to the tomato and the corn, because in the times when they were taking time to grow, if there is no tomato and corn, people will die. So understanding your relevance, no matter how little you think your gifting is or your product is, you are serving a significant purpose. Because while iroko and bamboo are taking forever to even sprout, you are feeding people. By the time they eventually sprout, they will give you shelter. So understand your place, understand your purpose. All fingers are not equal, but they are significant for the purpose for which they have been created. So that way, I will never be in comparison with a tomato seed. I will never be in comparison with an iroko if I'm a bamboo. I will never be in comparison with a corn if I am a tomato, whatever it is, because I know my product. I know the process of time, and I recognize that in collaboration with the iroko and the bamboo, we are working together. While you are growing, I am feeding. By the time I'm done feeding, you will give me shelter. So respect everybody's position, respect how they look, respect what they do, respect their gifting, but not desire to be them, because you have yours, and desiring to be them, you have, one, insulted the master who gave you what you have, two, rendered yourself to a shadow when you should be the main picture.
So good, so good. I could go on and on speaking with you, literally. But just as we close, I saw a quote or phrase on your Instagram about starting, executing, and overcoming.
Okay.
There's often that, it's easier to get pushed into something. For instance, you got laid off from your job, it was sink or swim, you were in it, the proverbial hot water. So you had to paddle and, do all the things that you do. But it's difficult for some people who, they have an idea of what they want to do.
Yeah.
But just overcoming that initial inertia to push beyond and push. What do you think? If there's someone who's listening to this podcast right now who has been thinking, they've been ruminating over this idea, this thing, I know that I can do it. They've seen themselves. I put something on Instagram yesterday, and I was saying that oftentimes when you can't stop thinking about this thing, it's because, creation happens twice. First in the spirit and in the natural. It's because it's already there, right? And it just can't leave you because you just need to manifest it here on earth. So if you're speaking, I want you to speak specifically to somebody who's listening to this podcast right now who has an idea, who has a vision, who thinks this thing is challenging. I don't even know. Can I do it? And I've just been dancing around, wasting time, and not making any movement. Activate us, please. Please.
I think I've said so much in the last 1 hour. I mean, just get it done. What's the worst that will happen? The worst that will happen is that you will fail. What next after you fail? You stand up and try again. Success looks so beautiful, but you don't realize everything that had to go into it. Whoever the person is, we need to stop looking at the final phase. Get to the root of it. Plant a seed. A tree doesn't just grow, it starts from a seed. Plant the seed, water it, show up every day and water it. Trim it if you need to. Check on it, ensure it has enough sunlight, ensure it has enough water, not too much of water it could drown the plant, not too much of sunlight, it could scorch it. Prune it as frequently as you can. Check it. Give it time. I believe that once you have done your best is good enough. For those that are spiritual, work like as though you don't know how to do anything else. Pray like as though you don't know how to do anything else. Don't just pray because we're quite a very, very religious people in Africa, but even globally, but it's not faith without works is death. It's just like, I want to have a child, sleep with your husband for goodness sakes. That's a different thing if you're sleeping with your husband and, so now then, let's go to the doctor. I want to lose it. I want to lose it. Stop eating at the wrong time. Talking to myself too. Right? So what is the thing that we need to do that we're not doing? The bulk stops on our table. No one is to blame. No one is responsible. We are responsible. Now, even if somebody is the reason why you're where you are, the reason why you will not get to where you want to get to is not the person, it's you. So make a decision. I'm not defined by where I'm coming from or who puts me here. I am here nevertheless. I need to define where I want to get to. Just move. My people say, "Oh, die not die. Choose your die." Every death. How do I translate that in English?
Every death is
Every
a
death
kind
is a
of
death. So you choose the kind of death you want to have, right? So if you're going to die, you are going to die anyways. So choose the death that at least offers you some option. Let it be that you die trying.
You try trying.
That you didn't do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is not the critic that counts. I love that Theodore Roosevelt's quotes. Yes, credit belongs to the man who is in the arena, who is daring
Absolutely.
greatly.
Who's in the middle of who's in the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not those saying kick it like this, kick it like this. Enter the field and kick the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So make your life happen and stop waiting for people to help your life, to help make your life happen.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Several mic drops. And I did check the elephant gestation. You're right, 18 to 22 months. I said 9 years from. But anyways, thank you so much. What an activation. Guys, you are welcome. You are welcome. You want to listen to this episode again at least 3 times. You want to let it wash over, because those things that have been holding your mind back, they are strongholds. They're not just going to go just by one listen. You need to wash your mind with this. Thank you so much. Where can my people find you? I'm sure they will want to just experience more of you. Feel free to share
I'm
that
on
now.
all platforms at I am StephREDD. At I am StephREDD on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I am StephREDD at I am StephREDD. Yeah, that's IAMSTEPHREDD for emphasis.
Double D for emphasis. And you also have a podcast?
Yes, I have a podcast. It is called Spot On. It's on Anchor, it's on Google Podcasts. Yeah, it's just Spot On with StephREDD. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
You are welcome.
Absolutely brilliant having you.
Thank you so much. It's been a long time coming. We've finally done it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know.